Today I want to show you how to properly freeze your garden fresh vegetables. And since my green beans are coming in this year in abundance, I'm going to be using those to show you how to do that. So let's get started. So freezing vegetables is one of the easiest, most convenient, and the less time-consuming methods out there to preserve your fresh vegetables. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment. Basically, all you need is something to put it in and a freezer, of course, to freeze them in. When it comes to freezing your vegetables, there's one very important step that needs to be done first, and that's what we call blanching. So what is blanching? Blanching consists of taking your vegetable, putting it in boiling water for a very short period of time, or steaming, and then you want to submerge them in cold water to stop the cooking process, because you don't want your vegetable to cook too much. You don't want it to get soft and kind of mushy once it's frozen. So that's basically what blanching is. It's really simple. So what this blanching does, without getting too scientific or too technical or too boring, so blanching inactivates the enzyme in the vegetable. And it's that enzyme that decreases the quality of the food. So the blanching helps slow down that deterioration of your food, if you want to say, once it's frozen. Blanching will clean off anything that could be still left over on top of your vegetable. It improves the color. You're going to see by just putting it in boiling water, putting it in cold water, it's going to turn into a beautiful color. It really brings out the color. And as well, it slows down the nutrient loss inside of your vegetable. One thing to remember when it comes to freezing is all vegetables are not the same. So I'm going to show you my green beans because I have an abundance of green beans, but you should look up the blanching time, whether you're doing carrots or broccoli or cauliflower, because it can be a little different with each vegetable. I just want to talk to you about this book for a second. I really love this book because it not only does it talk about freezing, and it has a chart of all the different vegetables and fruit and how to freeze them, how to properly freeze them. There's also a section on canning, which I don't know if you know, if you haven't checked out my channel. I do a lot of canning as well. And there's dehydrating, pickling. So this is like a book that has everything in it, and it's scientifically proven, safe recipes. And if you know anything about me, I'm always trying to make sure that what I'm doing is safe. So this is a really good book, and it has everything in it. And I don't know about you, but when I go in the garden and I pick my green beans, this is usually something around like the regular size of green beans that I like to pick. Like, I don't like them when they're too big. But when you're in the garden and you're picking your green beans and going through the plants, and every once in a while you're going to miss some. So you're picking up a lot of them that are this size, and then all of a sudden you find some that are this size, where you see that the bean inside is really big and lumpy. And I have a few of those that I found in the garden this morning. Now, usually these, they're not great to eat, like if you just want to eat them with a meal as a side. But if you freeze these and you throw them in a soup, they are just as good as the ones that are the perfect size. So don't toss these green beans. If you get some in your garden, freeze them. They're absolutely delicious in soups, and you won't be able to tell the difference. You won't be eating on that big bean in the middle. So don't throw these out. These are perfect for freezing. So now let me show you how I prepare my green beans for freezing. The first thing that I do with my green beans, even if you're going to be boiling them, you want them to be really well washed. And then what I do is I remove the ends from the green bean. You don't have to remove this section of the green bean here, but I always do. I prefer to remove both ends, but some people do choose to leave that end on, and that's fine. For freezing, I prefer to freeze them in cut up little pieces, but that's just a personal preference. If you prefer to leave them long and freeze them in their entirety without cutting them up, that's fine as well. I prefer to freeze them all cut up, and that way when I'm making a soup, they're all ready to go, and I just toss them right inside the soup. So I have here my pot of boiling water, and I also have prepared right beside me here my sink with some ice in it so it's nice and cold. One thing you need to remember, if you're doing a lot of green beans at once, you want to do this in small batches. You don't want to throw a whole bunch of vegetables inside your pot, because you need this to start boiling again after 1 minute. If it's not boiling after 1 minute, you've added too many vegetables and then you're just cooking them. So you really want to do this in small batches. So for my green beans, I start timing for 3 minutes once it comes back to a boil. And if you were doing like cut up carrots, it would be 2 minutes. So everything's a little bit different. So we're gonna put this in, bring it back to a boil, time 3 minutes, and then dunk them in some cold water. So you want to drain them. Look at the beautiful color. They're so nice and green. And then you want to quickly submerge these in your ice water. You can touch them once they feel cold to the touch, and just be careful to leave them long enough so that it's through and through and not just the outside. Then you just scoop them back up, let them drain, ice and all. Once your vegetables have been properly blanched, you're going to want to let them drain a little bit, even dry them up a little, just so that when you freeze them that they don't stick together. Another way as well that you could freeze them to avoid them from sticking together is if you lay them out on top of a cookie sheet, let them freeze maybe for a day or so, and then after that transfer them to your container, your bag, or whatever you want to freeze them in. I freeze mine in sealable bags, a freezer grade quality, just so they don't get freezer burned. So I'm going to pop these in these bags. And it's all depending on how much you want to put in. I put them usually in what I would put a quantity when I'm making a soup. So when I'm making a soup, I just need to pull out a bag or 2 bags, depending on the size of my soup, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to transfer these over to the bag. I just try to remove as much air as I can from the bag when I'm sealing it. And then all that's left to do is to pop these in the freezer. These can go either in the freezer of your fridge, or if you have a chest freezer, or if you have as well an upright freezer. All those work better. But just remember, if you put them in the freezer of your fridge, they won't last as long. They have more of a tendency to get freezer burned because we go in that one a lot more often and open it up, and there's a lot of air circulating in there, so it could cause more freezer burn. But that's it. So easy way to preserve your garden harvest by freezing. And it doesn't even have to be something you have from your garden. You can just go to the farmer's market if you find a good sale somewhere and you buy like a load of green beans or carrots or any kind of fresh vegetable. You can freeze them as well, and they'll last pretty good for 6 months to a year. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, give it a big thumbs up, and be sure to check back again soon to see what other content I have coming up.